Good evening and welcome. My name is Les Boudet, and I'm the Vice President of Service Delivery here at TDI. Working the room earlier this evening during the cocktail reception, it was wonderful to see the collaboration and the assembly of vendors, partners, even competitors, but in effect, companions here tonight assembled for this great cause. I always enjoy opportunities like this to interface and mingle with industry leaders, partners, and vendors to discuss what's going on in the cyber community, to gauge the pulse of where the trends are headed, and hopefully identify opportunities where us, along with our partners here in the room, can collaborate on solutions in supporting one of the biggest issues facing this nation today. I will tell you that TDI is very interested in helping the large contractor firms and vendors with their small business obligations and goals that they may have today. And I'm sitting right down here, by the way, for later.
Shameless.
But as far as tonight goes, it's about a great cause, about an extremely important cause that requires our dedication, our generosity, in helping support the mission here at Children's National. As the parent of 5 wonderful, active, and socially involved kids, I can tell you from my personal experience, volunteering as a coach, as a field trip chaperone, as a classroom parent, and yes, even as a Girl Scout troop assistant. I have 4 daughters, thank you very much. There are few things in life as rewarding as volunteering your own time and effort to make a difference in a child's life and to make this world a little bit brighter for those less fortunate. As Thomas Jefferson once said, "May I never be too busy in my own affairs that I fail to respond to those in need with kindness and compassion." As we gather here tonight, I find myself very fortunate to introduce somebody who embodies that sentiment. Somebody who's an ideal ambassador to the mission of volunteering. Someone who, through their childhood, who was a beneficiary of patient volunteer care, is now turning that experience around and embodies what Pay It Forward is truly all about. Mary Billington began volunteering at Children's Hospital almost 2 years ago. Before that, she committed advocate for service and believes deeply in the impact caring adults can have on a child's life. She currently serves as a senior public policy manager at City Year, a national service organization that engages more than 3,000 AmeriCorps members in full-time service in supporting nearly 300 low-performing schools nationwide. In her role, Mary advances the organization's federal policy priorities, advises City Year's 27 domestic program sites in the development and execution of congressional engagement strategies, and helps to run Voices for National Service, an advocacy coalition that seeks to expand service opportunities for Americans of all ages and backgrounds. Mary previously worked at the U.S. Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pension under the chairmanship of Senator Tom Harkin of Iowa, where her policy portfolio included kindergarten through 12th grade education and disability policy issues. A native New Yorker, Mary received a bachelor's degree in economics from Barnard College and Columbia University, and a master's degree in education policy and management at Harvard. She began volunteering, as I said earlier, at Children's National almost 2 years ago. This year, Mary was the top fundraiser on the Believe Volunteers team at the hospital's annual Race for Every Child. In addition, Mary individually raised more than $2,000 in support of Dr. Bear's Closet, which is the volunteer toy closet at Children's National. Mary? As a patient volunteer who, through your commitment, your dedication, and your gift of time and energy, is sharing hope, spreading smiles, and lightening the load of children and families in need, you are indeed recognized as a true hero, not only to the patients you serve, but to the support and caregivers that you provide support to. It is a great pleasure and honor that I present you with the 2015 White Hat Gala Volunteer Excellence Award. Congratulations.
Thank you. I have to start by saying that I was a little nervous before I got up here, but my very good friend Melissa, who is kind enough to join me tonight, reassured me that you all would be in my corner and you would want me to succeed at this. And then she asked me where the printed copy of my remarks was, and I said I didn't have one, and sheer terror came over her face. So I'm not quite sure where this is going to land, but we're going to find out. I am so honored to be here with all of you tonight and to accept this award for my service at Children's National. As you heard, the concept of service to others is one that is incredibly important to me, both professionally and personally. And I am so proud to be a volunteer at the Children's Hospital here in DC. I began volunteering at Children's National about 2 years ago. But really, my decision to become a volunteer was a decision that was 25 years in the making. Growing up, I spent a lot of time in hospitals. I am a 3-time survivor of childhood cancer. And in many ways, hospitals have become like a second home to me. I once explained to one of my doctors that I'm more comfortable in a hospital than I am not in a hospital. She thinks I'm nuts. And she's probably right, but it really is how I feel. For me, hospitals are not scary or overwhelming. They're familiar and safe. I was first diagnosed with cancer when I was 6 months old. I had malignant tumors in the retinas of both of my eyes and underwent a month of radiation treatment. Then, when I was 12 years old, I developed a bone tumor in my right sinus. I underwent a year of chemotherapy as well as a 14-hour surgery to remove the tumor. Then I was pronounced cancer-free and returned to my normal life as a middle schooler in my hometown of New York City. I should probably clarify that. Life was just about as normal as it could possibly be with no hair and wearing an eye patch for the very first time, which in 7th grade was totally the look I was going for. And then, when I was 15, about halfway through my freshman year in high school, my cancer returned. A single cancerous cell from the bone tumor I had had in my sinus survived the chemotherapy. It traveled through my bloodstream, lodged itself in my heart, and grew until it was detectable on a routine chest CT. I had bone cancer in my heart. Just days after my 15th birthday, I underwent successful open heart surgery, followed by another year of chemotherapy to prevent the same thing from happening again. Today, I am 27 years old, and I am happy to report that I have been cancer-free for more than 12 years. I'm really curious at what point in my life I'm going to stop revealing my age in that part of the speech. We haven't gotten there yet, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. But when I look back at my experience growing up as a kid with cancer, there are certainly things that frustrate me and sadden me. But really, more than anything else, I feel really lucky. I was up against some pretty bad odds and endured some less than ideal circumstances. But I was able to pull through and maintain a positive attitude because I was surrounded by an invaluable support system. For me, that support system included my parents, my 2 older brothers, my doctors, my nurses, but it also included the volunteers who served at my hospital. And when I think about the volunteers I knew growing up, there's really one in particular who comes to mind. His name is Frank. I met Frank when I was 12 years old, during my second battle with cancer. He was, and still is today, a volunteer at the hospital where I was treated. And every Friday night, Frank circulated the pediatric inpatient unit with a cart filled to the brim with snacks and goodies for the patients. Needless to say, it did not take long for Friday night to become the highlight of my week. I don't know if you guys saw me out there with the hors d'oeuvres, but I can eat. I once explained to Frank, though, that his cart was missing something very important. You see, his cart only had the original flavored Pringles, when clearly the superior choice is sour cream and onion. I'm right? And sure enough, the very next week, Frank added sour cream and onion Pringles to the cart. Frank and I continued to get to know each other and hang out every Friday night that I was on the inpatient unit. But soon, my treatment protocol came to an end. I was no longer being admitted to the inpatient unit. And to be perfectly honest, I never really said goodbye to Frank. I just went back to my normal life, which I was excited to do. But as I mentioned before, several years later, my cancer returned. And my very first night back in the hospital, that next time around, happened to be a Friday night. That night, Frank, whom I hadn't seen in years, came to my hospital room. He offered me a snack from the cart and said, "I've kept sour cream and onion Pringles on the cart each week, just in case you might come back." His words, his presence, the Pringles. They all helped to make that first night back in the hospital a little more tolerable. The smile that Frank brought to my face that night, and the general feelings of comfort and joy that all of the hospital volunteers brought to my hospital stays over the years, have never really left me. They are the reason I now volunteer at Children's National. Frank taught me a really important lesson that one Friday night that I think is a lesson from which we can all benefit. Frank taught me that when you care about someone who is going through a difficult time or is up against circumstances that may seem insurmountable to you, the solution does not rest in having the exact right words to say. There are no right words to say to a kid with cancer, or a kid with cystic fibrosis, or a kid with a failing heart. No words will make that fair, or right, or okay. But there is something that we can offer to those kids, or to anyone who it might be in need, and that is ourselves. We can be there. We can be present. And we can live through that moment with them. Pringles help, but they're not essential. What's essential is that real, simple human connection. Thank you all so much for being here tonight, for listening to me ramble, and for, most importantly, your support of the patients and families at Children's National. None of us in the Children's National community would be able to do what we do if it were not for your extraordinary thoughtfulness and generosity. So thank you for being here. Thank you for this lovely honor, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.
That was incredible, Mary. All right, enjoy your meal, everybody. Activity's coming in a little bit.